Um, I'm not too crazy about reading the thing over again, but it's been proofread, so it should go by faster. Yeah, I'll read it again. Okay. All right. Let's start from Daniel Kobashi. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 24 hours after the pirating of the truck stop in South Dakota, 36-year-old Daniel Toshiro Kabashi was sitting on the lower sleeper of his 18-wheeler at a Lev's truck stop on the outskirts of Twin Falls, Idaho. As electronic music played in the trucker on his trucker speakers, he found himself writing an Arabic script on a golden painted paper plate. Then you heard a clicking sound and saw that a CD he had placed into the laptop a few minutes earlier was finished having data burned onto it. Although he was wearing a plastic transparent gloves, he treated the CD as if he didn't want to get his fingerprints on it. Still, Daniel pulled the CD out of the burner, held it between his palms, and placed it in the middle of one of the paper plates. He then took off one of the plastic gloves, took a little piece of sticky tape, placed the sticky part of the tape on his naked thumb, touched it, and with his thumb over, touched it with his thumb over and over in about 3 different angles until it was fingerprints crossing fingerprints. As Daniel did such a thing, memories of why he was doing it began to travel through his mind again. One memory was of a giant burning Sears tower, now known as the Willis Tower, standing like a big black burning monster in the middle of Chicago against the backdrop of a beautiful sunset. Crying people on the rooftops, desperately trying to catch the attention of a lone helicopter after 2 others had collided, trying to reach them before the fire did. As such memories played once again in Daniel's mind, he taped the CD down with the tape into the middle inside of the painted paper plate. While using the knuckle, while using a knuckle to rub off whatever fingerprints were still on the sticky side of the tape, Daniel reminisced further, remembering the Willis Tower, formerly known as the Sears Tower, tilting in horrifying fashion against the sunset right before being struck at its base by another falling and burning Chicago skyscraper. He could still hear the screams, including his own, as the then black and glowing mighty tower roared down at the smoke and flames of the city below. Daniel thought of how unbelievable such a scene was, so incredible that he wondered if what he was doing now, inside a big truck, was just a part of some crazy dream he might soon wake up from. Am I really doing this? He asked himself. Had Daniel hoped it was just a nightmare he would soon wake up from, but he also knew it was something he had wished many times before. Daniel continued to work away on his latest weapon, which he would place inside a truck stop restroom. He picked up the paper plate, and examined his latest creation. As he examined it, Daniel thought about the president's response to the Islamic attack on Chicago and how the response had changed his life. Here, Daniel began to find himself growing in anger again, for instead of a president talking about destroying the Kaaba in Mecca and burying it in pig waste, or even going so far as threatening to nuke Mecca if another nuclear device was set off in the city, the president instead sat behind the table of the Oval Office talking about how Islam was a peaceful and tolerant religion, how it was a great religion that, for unknown reasons, was just hijacked by millions of really evil and stupid people, possibly under the control of Satan, trying to make Islam look evil and satanic. We will never be at war with Islam, Daniel remembered the president saying behind the table with the camera on him that day. Such a sentence made Daniel grit his teeth. Daniel sat stoically as he remembered the president then saying, in spite of the best radiation detectors we had in American City, evildoers were able to set off 2 nuclear devices in Chicago, bringing down the Willis Tower, while almost bringing down the John Hancock building as well. My fellow Americans, That can't be allowed to happen again. It can't be allowed to happen ever again. Since the nuking of Mecca will undoubtedly set off countless more nuclear devices in our cities, which again, we were unable to prevent, I'm ordering the removal of all material off the internet that Muslims deem hateful toward both themselves as well as Islam. If anyone objects, they will be interned and detained in undisclosed locations. If anyone resists, he will be shot on sight. Again, we cannot allow another nuclear device to be set off in our cities. In the speech, the president had stopped short of instilling Sharia law to appease the evildoers in the name of Islam. But he reiterated again that all material on the internet seen as hateful toward Islam would be removed as soon as possible. Daniel Kobashi tried to control his anger and concentrate on the object he was preparing. He then continued to check to see if there was any residue of hair, fingerprints, or DNA anywhere on the packet that could get him a one-way ticket to one of those undisclosed locations. Find the object evidence-free, Daniel picked up a marble from a can and put it in his top shirt pocket as he eyed a little white bag of flour that was a bag made of toilet tissue paper. Daniel took some tape, made a Mobius strip of it, and placed it in the little bag. Right when he was about to tape it onto the CD and place another CD over it to seal it in, he stopped himself and said, "No, it's not quite time." He removed the bag of flour and placed it on the top of his mattress. "This is not the place for it," he said to himself. Daniel became still as he thought what to do next. Noticing that it was looking like it was going to snow, Daniel picked up a stapler and took the CD taped to a paper plate, placing another paper plate within it. After placing it under the black leather jacket he was wearing, he then walked over to his CB, turned it on, and said, "Hello, I'm a person of the book, Abin Quran 568, which tells me that I have no ground to stand upon unless I stand firm upon the Torah and Injil. I'm waiting for you, a Muslim, to come to me for my reading before scriptures, which is the Bible, because Quran 1094 told Muhammad to do that if he was in doubt about the Quran. And Muslims are to use Muhammad as their example. And I read the before scriptures, that is, again, the Bible." Daniel waited for a while. A trucker's voice came in asking what the shit he was talking about. "Is there a fucking terrorist in the parking lot?" another trucker asked. Daniel didn't respond. He waited a bit, then got out of his truck to head toward the truck stop. When Daniel entered the restroom of the Love's truck stop, he suddenly smiled a bit when he looked at the sink. "Great, it's gone," he said silently to himself. But the smile soon faded when he decided to check the trash bins. He reached in and pulled out one of his paper plate packets that he had placed into the restroom a couple of hours earlier. It was crushed with a big oily shoe print on it. When no one was looking, he walked over to place it onto the sink he had placed it on earlier. Suddenly he noticed a piece of CD he had placed inside it had fallen out from the crack that hadn't been stapled. It was not only stamped on, but bent and broken in two parts. Still, he placed it on the sink and was just about to leave the restroom when he suddenly noticed writing in English on the other side of the gold-painted paper plate packet that didn't have the shoe print on it. There were three words written with a felt pen on it, spelling out "Death to Haters." We saw that. Daniel suddenly felt a bit ill to his stomach. How did they know it had anything dealing with Islam if it hadn't been played? Daniel looked about the restroom nervously to see if he was being watched. Finding no one suspiciously looking at him, he left the room while trying to act composed, all the while scanning the semi-crowded truck store. As he walked past a couple of aisles stacked with hot, clogging trucker food, he noticed some Middle Eastern-looking guy wearing a cowboy hat near the exit of the truck store. The young guy with a hat was looking at him. Daniel smiled and waved at him, but there was no wave of friendliness from this guy. Instead, he put his black leather gloved hand to his throat. It made it look like he was putting a knife across his throat. He then pointed at Daniel and gave Daniel a glare of extreme hate. If there was ever such a thing as the evil eye, this guy was giving Daniel both of them. Daniel felt his heart pound as he felt as though he was about to pass out. The young trucker, the young guy quickly left through the exit doors. Daniel quickly collected himself and ran after him to see where he was going, but the young man had disappeared under the trailer of a truck that was filling up. Daniel looked down and saw that he must have run under the tractor trailers as well. Daniel looked down and saw that he must have run under tractor trailers as well, vanishing into the cold darkness. Daniel could feel a rising apprehension, but he knew he couldn't let it paralyze him. He quickly tossed out the paper plate packet material under his jacket, then ran as fast as he could through the trucks, nearly getting run over by big rigs that came tearing around a corner of parked tractor trailers, just missing Daniel by inches. So concerned was Daniel about where his possible killers were that he forgot about the crushing wheels of 18-wheelers. Every little dark place Daniel passed now seemed to him to be as about as safe as a hungry tiger's lair. Oh my gosh, wow, it goes by a lot faster after you proofread it. Okay. As Daniel looked about to try to remember where he parked a truck that pretty much looked like any other truck, he suddenly heard the scream of a woman. He turned around. Oh, yeah. He turned around, trying to determine where the scream had come from. A woman was screaming at something lying on the ground near the boundary of the Love's truck stop, next to open field. Daniel ran over to the woman to see if she needed help. Other truckers came running with them to see what was wrong. When they got to the place, they saw the woman pointing at something on the ground. It was remains of a man, possibly a fellow trucker, due to the jeans and cap he was wearing. He was also crushed flat. He was also crushed flat as a long strip of pita bread on the ground. Do you think the ice? Yeah. Do you think the ice made him slip under the wheels when the truck was pulling out? Asked the woman, who was a trucker herself. Strange position to end up in, said another trucker. Look how he's aligned. Plus, he's so far back here, nearly up against the wall, separating lot from field. Damn, it's as if he was placed under the tandems. I'm betting it was another suicide. A red-haired trucker then said, "A lot of them going on in this profession. No one wants to pay a trucker's decent salary no more." Gotta turn this off. Where is that? Yeah, got to turn it off. I could go a little further. Yeah, I will. No, I'm not going to risk it. I'm going to turn it off right here. And then I'll start up, yeah.